What if the single greatest obstacle standing between you and the life you've always wanted isn't your circumstances, your resources, or even your past, but a hidden psychological force living inside your own mind right now? A force so subtle, so deeply embedded in your identity, that most people never even realize it's running their lives. Today, we're going to expose it. We're going to name it. And more importantly, we're going to show you exactly how to break free from it. This concept comes from one of the most brilliant psychological minds in human history, Carl Gustav Jung. And once you understand it, you will never look at yourself or the people around you the same way again. Stay with me until the very end, because the final insight is the one that changes everything. There is a Latin term that Jung introduced into modern psychology, Puer Aeternus, the eternal child. On the surface, it sounds almost poetic. Who wouldn't want to carry the spirit of youth forever? Boundless energy, wild creativity, an unshakable belief that life holds infinite possibilities. But here's the truth that most people never confront. Beneath that beautiful exterior lies a shadow, a deep, quiet pattern of avoidance, of immaturity dressed up as freedom, of dreams that never quite become reality. The Puer Aeternus is not simply about being young at heart. It is a psychological archetype, a recurring pattern in the human psyche, that describes people who are perpetually suspended between who they could be and who they are willing to become. And in today's world, this archetype is more relevant than ever. Think about the people in your life, or perhaps even yourself, who seem to exist in a permanent state of almost. Always on the verge of something great. Always one decision away from committing. Always dreaming of what life could look like, yet somehow never quite arriving there. That tension, that invisible war between longing and avoidance, is the signature of the eternal child. Jung believed that the Puer Aeternus doesn't arise from laziness or weakness. It emerges from something far more complex, a deep imbalance in the psyche, where the desire for limitless freedom collides head-on with the unavoidable weight of adult reality. At its psychological root, the eternal child is born from our collective unconscious, that vast, shared reservoir of symbols, myths, and archetypes that all human beings carry within them. It is the echo of a time before responsibility, before loss, before the world demanded something from us in return. And so a part of us clings to it. You've seen this dynamic play out in mythology. Consider Icarus, the boy given wings of wax and feathers by his father Daedalus. Fueled by ambition and the intoxicating thrill of flight, Icarus ignored every warning and soared higher and higher toward the sun, until his wings melted and he fell into the sea. Icarus didn't fail because he lacked talent or vision. He failed because he refused to accept limitation. He was so enchanted by the idea of what he could be that he dismissed the reality of what he was. That is the danger of living exclusively inside the eternal child archetype. The higher you dream without grounding yourself in reality, the harder the fall becomes. And the tragedy is, it's not the dreams that destroy you. It's the refusal to pair them with discipline, accountability, and genuine growth. Here is something that should concern all of us. Modern culture doesn't just tolerate the Puer Aeternus. It actively rewards it. We live in an era that worships youth, that glorifies spontaneity, that sells the idea that freedom means freedom from commitment, from routine, from anything that feels like a cage. Social media amplifies this illusion daily, presenting curated lives of endless adventure, validation, and novelty, while quietly filtering out everything that took sacrifice, patience, and failure to build. The result? A generation, actually, multiple generations, caught in the seductive loop of the eternal child. Endlessly scrolling. Constantly switching paths. Chronically dissatisfied despite having more opportunity than any previous era in human history. Jung saw this coming. Decades ago, he warned that a society which glorifies the child's freedom while dismissing the adult's wisdom creates individuals who are perpetually unfulfilled. Not because they lack potential, but because they can never fully inhabit it. And here is where it gets deeply personal. Ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you stuck in the loop? Where are you choosing the comfort of almost over the risk of fully? Where are you holding onto the dream so tightly that you refuse to do the work the dream actually requires? In Jungian psychology, every archetype carries a shadow, the dark, unacknowledged side of itself. For the eternal child, the shadow is what's hiding beneath all that charm and creative energy. Underneath the wandering free spirit is often someone terrified of failure. Beneath the "I haven't found my path yet" is often someone terrified of committing to any path, because commitment makes failure possible. Beneath the allergy to routine is often a deep fear of being truly seen, truly accountable, truly known. Jung had a powerful statement about this: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That single sentence deserves a long pause. How many of the choices in your life, the opportunities you didn't take, the relationships you avoided deepening, the projects you abandoned before they could succeed, how many of those were not really choices at all? How many were the shadow of the eternal child quietly steering the wheel while you believed you were in control? This is not about blame. It is about awareness. Because awareness is the first and most essential step toward change. Jung's answer to the Puer Aeternus was not to destroy it, not to shame it into silence. His answer was individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming a whole, integrated self. Individuation means confronting every part of who you are, including the parts you've hidden, suppressed, or simply never examined, and weaving them together into something coherent and real. It is the work of becoming not just who you want to be, but who you authentically are. For the eternal child, individuation means learning to hold two things simultaneously: the aliveness and creativity of the child, and the grounded responsibility of the adult. Not trading one for the other. Not suppressing the dreamer to become the dutiful worker, but genuinely integrating both. Here is what that integration actually looks like in real life. It looks like an artist who doesn't just wait for inspiration, who shows up every day, disciplines their craft, and finishes what they start. It looks like someone who stops treating relationships as experiments and starts investing in them with vulnerability and consistency. It looks like choosing one direction and walking it fully, instead of standing at the crossroads indefinitely, paralyzed by the fear of choosing wrong. Integration doesn't happen through insight alone. It requires action. Here are the concrete starting points. Write about the patterns you keep repeating. The dreams that never move past the dream stage. The responsibilities you consistently sidestep. Ask yourself, what am I most afraid of losing if I grow up? What does adulthood represent to me that feels threatening? The answers will surprise you. The eternal child reacts. It chases novelty, avoids discomfort, and moves impulsively toward whatever feels lighter. Mindfulness teaches you to pause before reacting, to sit with discomfort instead of immediately escaping it. That pause is where transformation lives. Individuation doesn't require grand gestures. It requires small, repeated acts of showing up. Finish one project. Keep one promise to yourself. Stay in one difficult conversation instead of walking away. These small acts of follow-through rebuild the trust between you and yourself. Jung believed deeply that we cannot individuate in isolation. The people around us reflect back the parts of ourselves we can't see alone. Let them. Stop pulling away when relationships demand depth and vulnerability. That discomfort is not a warning to leave, it is an invitation to grow. Here is the insight that most people miss entirely, and it is the one that changes everything once you truly grasp it. Freedom and responsibility are not opposites. The modern world has convinced us that they exist on opposite ends of a spectrum, that the more responsibility you accept, the less free you become. That commitment is the enemy of possibility. But Jung saw through this entirely. True freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the presence of intentionality. It is the freedom to choose, consciously, courageously, how you are going to live. And that kind of freedom can only exist within the structure of commitment. Without commitment, you're not free. You're adrift. The person who never commits to a career because they fear missing out on other options isn't free. They are trapped by infinite possibility. The person who never deepens a relationship because they fear losing independence isn't free. They are isolated by the illusion of self-sufficiency. Real freedom comes from choosing deliberately, acting with integrity, and building a life that reflects your deepest values, not your most comfortable escape routes. The alchemists of antiquity understood this. They spent years, sometimes lifetimes, working patiently with raw, impure materials, not because the work was easy, but because the result was extraordinary. Gold. Transformation. Something of lasting, irreplaceable value. Your life is the raw material. Integration is the process. And the result, a life of genuine depth, creativity, purpose, and freedom, is worth every uncomfortable step it takes to get there. So here is what I want you to hold on to long after this video ends. The eternal child inside you is not your enemy. It never was. That spark of wonder, that hunger for something more, that refusal to accept a small or meaningless life, that is a gift. Don't kill it. Don't suppress it. But stop letting it run unchecked. Guide it. Ground it. Give it structure, discipline, and the courage to follow through. Because the most powerful version of you is not the one who stays forever young and forever free of burden. It is the one who takes every ounce of that childlike fire and builds something real with it. Something that lasts. Something that matters. Jung spent his entire life mapping the human psyche so that we could find our way back to ourselves. And the map leads here, to this moment, where you decide whether you're going to keep dreaming about your life or actually start living it. The eternal child brought you to the door. Now the question is, are you ready to walk through it? If this reached something deep inside you, don't just watch it once. Watch it again. Share it with someone who needs it. Because the conversation Jung started nearly a century ago, it's more urgent today than it has ever been.